Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Mastering VCF series. In the last episode, we discussed about NSX, the Network and Security Foundation of VCF, and we explored how VMware NSX transforms networking and security into software. But today, I would like to ask you something. Imagine you own the world's most advanced sports car. That sports car is having incredible engine, an intelligent transmission. In fact, the best braking system and the world-class suspension. Now imagine a car where every one of those systems, being it engine, being it intelligent transmission, being it braking system, every one of these systems are having their own steering wheel. Imagine your car where every one of these systems are having their own dashboard, their own driver. Would that car ever move efficiently? Do you think that this kind of car can ever move efficiently? Probably not. Modern enterprise infrastructure today exactly facing the same problem. The reason why? Because we built amazing technologies. VMware has built amazing technologies like vSphere, like NSX, like vSAN, like ARIA automation, ARIA operations, security monitoring. Every individual technology became incredibly powerful. But then something was still missing. Not another feature, not another product, and yet not another dashboard. Cloud, VMware Cloud Foundation. This cloud model needed brain. And today's episode, we are going to discuss about the brain. Today, we will talk about the brain of VMware Cloud Foundation. We'll talk about SDDC Manager, not as another VMware product, but we will discover SDDC Manager as the intelligence that transforms infrastructure into autonomous cloud. Now, before we start, guys, quick introduction about me. I am Neeraj Mantri, VMware and Cloud Security Architect with 19 years of experience in virtualization, data center, cloud, and security solutions. Now, before we go and talk about the brain of VCF and we understand SDDC Manager, we first need to understand the problem it was created to solve, right? We need to understand what problem SDDC Manager is solving. But before we do that, let's have a quick rewind of the episode number 7. So let's rewind for a moment in our previous episodes what we have discussed. So all of the learners who have not watched our previous episodes of this Mastering VCF series, we would request you pause the video here, watch out previous episodes of this Mastering VCF series before you join us on the episode number 8 about brain of VCF, which is SDDC Manager. So now in the previous episodes, we focused on 3 incredible technologies. We discussed about vSphere, we discussed about vSAN, and we discussed about NSX. And together, they form the technical foundation. Let me repeat this word again. Together, they form technical foundation of VMware VCF. And as you could see that Applications are sitting above them. And there is an infrastructure which runs beneath them. Now, from this particular slide, if you see, everything seems to be complete because we have the right technical foundation, we have the right infrastructure to run this application, and everything looks complete, isn't it? But is it really complete? Take a closer look. If you look at this particular slide, applications depends on compute, storage, networking. All these pieces exist, yet there is a giant question mark if you see on the slide. Who manages all this? And this question is far more important than most engineers realize. Let me give you a simplistic real world example, right? Think about an orchestra. I hope everybody would have seen orchestra, right? So think about an orchestra. Imagine in your orchestra, you're having the world's greatest pianist. You're having world greatest violinist. You are having world greatest drummer. And similarly, you're having the world greatest guitarist. That is your orchestra. And where you're having individual musician is a world greatest musician. Now ask this question to yourself: would beautiful music automatically happen? If this pianist, violinist, drummer, guitarist, if they are working and producing music in their own silos, do you really think a beautiful music will happen automatically? And I hope everybody knows the answer is no. Because without a conductor, without coordinator, you don't get harmony. What you get is just noise. And modern cloud infrastructure is exactly the same. Your vSphere is brilliant. NSX is brilliant. vSAN is brilliant. There is no doubt on that. These are incredibly powerful technologies. But then somebody must conduct orchestra. Okay? And if you see, virtualization helps you create resources. vSphere is a compute virtualization. vSAN is a storage virtualization. NSX is a network and security virtualization. Virtualization always helps you to create resources, but cloud infrastructure always orchestrate these resources. That's a fundamental difference between virtualization and cloud infrastructure. And that orchestration is what enterprise pay for. That harmony is what you pay for as an audience when you attend any show, right? So infrastructure is not difficult because of technology. Every technology is powerful. Infrastructure becomes difficult because of lack of coordination. And that's the pain we have to solve. And once your infrastructure starts growing, coordination becomes exponentially harder. And let me explain you the challenges. What do you see when your infrastructure starts scaling? Imagine for a moment you're walking into a Fortune 500 data center. You are not walking into some lab. You're not walking into and some home lab setup. You are walking into a real enterprise data center. And once you walk into that data center, what do you find? You would find there are thousands of hosts, thousands of servers. There would be dozens of clusters, multiple vCenter servers, petabytes of storage, NSX clusters, NSX, different firmware versions, what you would be finding it, different life cycle stages, different certificate, 1,000+ certificates, password complexities, and monitoring tools everywhere. And once you see that's the enterprise problem, and suddenly your virtualization does not look simple anymore. Though you have ESXi, you have a compute virtualization, you have storage virtualization, you have network virtualization, but once you walk into such a huge data center, virtualization does not look simple anymore. If you look at this particular slide, every icon in the slide is not just a component. Every icon in the slide is one responsibility. It's another responsibility. ESXi host have a responsibility to run those VMs. Cluster have a responsibility of managing those features. Then you have a vCenter server. NSX have a responsibility provide your network security services into software. So every component in this infrastructure is another responsibility, another operational task, another risk, another spreadsheet, and another human dependency. In managing this kind of data center is like trying to control an international airport by writing and maintaining handwritten notebooks. What flight it will take on will take off from which platform or from which gate, from which source to which destination. You are maintaining the entire handwritten notebooks. It looks like that when you start managing those spreadsheets. And with this operational complexity, eventually the airport does not fail because airplanes stop flying. It fails because human cannot coordinate fast enough. It's not the failure of your airplanes. Airplanes are designed to fly, they are ready to fly. But your airport is failing not because of the lack of airplanes. Your airport is failing because as a human, you cannot coordinate fast enough the speed of airplanes. And that's a reality. The challenge is not about installing ESXi. The challenge is not about installing ESXi, installing vCenter server, or your vCenter server NSX managers are not getting deployed. The real challenge begins in the data center after deployment. And those challenges, for example, how do you maintain consistency across these operations? How do you make sure that you upgrade all these components together so that you can ensure compatibility? How do you ensure you can track your inventory? You can monitor health of every single component. You can rotate those certificates. You can update those passwords periodically without breaking anything. Validating the firmwares at enterprise scale, these operations become the real product, the real pain of the enterprises. Cloud transformation is no longer about virtualization. It's about operational intelligence. That's what cloud is all about. It's about operational intelligence. And because operations became impossible, organization started building teams. A lot of teams. One team for for vSphere, one team for vSAN, one team for NSX, one team for security, one team for monitoring. And creating so many teams to simplify this operational task introduced a next level of complexity and created brand new problem. So when organizations could not solve complexity, they try to solve the operational complexity by having more and more people. They solved it by creating dedicated network team. They solved it by creating dedicated compute team, storage team, security team, and operations team. And each team became highly specialized team, where every person in the team is super specialist of that specific technology, which sounds like a very good idea until they had to work together. Because that's the real challenge. If you see something on this slide, we have a dedicated team of the specialists. But the problem here is that the teams are not connected. Instead, they are connected via tickets, via approvals, via spreadsheets, maintenance windows, and a lot of long processes and long maintenance windows, not automation. That's the problem, where every specialist team is working in their own silos and trying to coordinate with with the approval of tickets, processes, spreadsheets, and slowing down the upgrades and increasing the maintenance window. Let me explain you with a very basic day-to-day day life example, right? Imagine you're building a house. Imagine you are building a new house where every room of your house has to be built by a different company, which means every room in your house is built by a different company. So what happens in this kind of challenges? Your electrician will wait for plumbing. The plumber waits for approvals. Construction wait for inventory. And your management waits for other set of approvals. So ultimately, every technician is expert in itself, being its electrician, being its plumber, being its manager, someone who is managing those things. So nothing is broken technically, but still nothing is moving also. Try to visualize this problem statement and see that how complex it would be for you to build a house when every room is built by a different company, where every person is expert in itself. The challenge here is not about the technology. The challenge here is the coordination, right? And that's exactly how traditional infrastructure operated. Every infrastructure change required coordination. You have to upgrade firmware, require coordination. You open the tickets, you renew the certificates, contact with another team. If you want to patch the host, schedule the maintenance windows. If you want to create a cluster, wait for approvals. And that's the challenge. Ask this question to yourself, that how many of you have waited days or even weeks for a simple infrastructure change? Ask this question to yourself now, and you will realize that's exactly the problem VMware wanted to eliminate. It's exactly the problem VMware wanted to eliminate. So VMware Engineer asked a one revolutionary question. What if, instead of managing every component separately, instead of managing every component separately, instead of constructing every room by a different company, what if we create a one intelligent control plane, a coordinator which coordinates everything together across these components. What if we create one intelligent control plane? And that is where this slide, what you see on the screen, represents one of the biggest architectural shifts in VMware history. This is a slide which talks about one of the biggest architectural shifts in VMware history. Before SDDC Manager, every capability had its own management interface. You will having you will be having vCenter console, manager console, vSAN management, certificate, password, lifecycle manager, firmware. So you would be dealing with multiple consoles, multiple teams, and multiple truths. And at last, everything is disconnected. But look at the transformation happening here, where everything is disconnected. On the right, everything converges into one intelligent brain. Everything converges into one intelligent brain. This is not about simplifying UI consolidation. This is not about simplifying UI consolidation. This is architecture consolidation. This is the architecture consolidation. Your SDDC manager, what we call the brain of VMware Cloud Foundation, is not replacing vCenter server. It does not replace vCenter server. It does not replace NSX. It does not replace SAN. Instead, it becomes the intelligence layer. It becomes intelligence layer that coordinates them all. So it's a coordinator. Think of the, think of it this way. Your vSphere builds compute, right? Your vSAN provide storage. Your NSX delivers networking. And SDDC Manager ensures SDDC Manager ensures they evolve, grade, scale, and operate as a one cloud platform. That's what the SDDC Manager makes sure. Your SDDC Manager ensures that these components evolve, upgrade, scale, and operate as a one cloud platform. And this is where your VMware Cloud Foundation truly begins, not with ESXi, not with NSX, not with vSAN. Your VMware Cloud Foundation truly begins with orchestration. Because orchestration transforms infrastructure into cloud. Infrastructure becomes cloud the moment your intelligence replaces coordination. So now we finally understand why SDDC Manager exists. The next obvious question comes, what exactly is SDDC Manager? What does it actually do? And why do VMware architect and why do VMware architects call it the brain of VMware Cloud Foundation? And that's exactly where our journey continues. So if you are enjoying this lecture series, guys, please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, GoVMlab, to not only learn the technology, but understand one of the very basic question, why? The philosophy, what you always believe into that, let's understand the reason why before you start learning what exactly is SDDC Manager. So with this explanation, you would have understood, right, that why SDDC Manager, what SDDC Manager is exactly doing it in the VCF architecture before you go and start configuring it, start browsing through it, right? Because our goal is very simple, not just to explain the products, but at least help engineers to start think like architects. Because we believe the best learning happens when technology is explained to a real enterprise architect, not just memorizing a list of features. Why does this component exist? We always start with why, because that's the reason the how becomes much easier. So if you're finding value in this content, guys, take a second, subscribe to GoVMlab YouTube channel and support us to create more valuable content for our learners community, right? Because we believe that thousands of engineers learn technologies, but very few learn architecture. And the engineers who learn architecture become the people who design platforms, the people who lead transformations, and the people who shape the future of infrastructure. So if that's the journey you are on, welcome to the GoVMlab community. Subscribe and stay curious and keep learning VMware product solutions with GoVMlab, the way enterprise deploy. So now let's move on to the next slide. So far we have answered one important question. Why did VMware create SDDC Manager? Now let's answer even bigger one. What exactly is SDDC Manager? If I asked 10 VMware administrators this question, many would answer SDDC Manager is just another VMware appliance. Some would say it is used for upgrades. Others might call it as another deployment. And believe me, none of these answers are completely wrong. None of them explain the real picture. See, SDDC Manager is not just another appliance. It's not just a software. It is the operating intelligence of VCF. It is an operating intelligence of VCF. It is the layer that transforms independent infrastructure products into a unified cloud platform. If you look at the center of this slide, if you look at the center of this slide, we have a glowing neural brain, what you see it here. And it's surrounded, and this neural brain is surrounded by many major infrastructure services like vCenter server, like NSX, like vSAN, like Lifecycle Manager, workload domain, automation, identity, certificates, password management, monitoring. And if you noticed, one of the thing, nothing is directly connected. Nothing is directly connected to everything else. Everything connects, every single component in this architecture connects via this brain. Exactly like the human nervous system. Your eyes do not talk directly to your legs. Your ears do not communicate directly with your hands. Every signal travels through one intelligent control center. And SDDC Manager plays that exact role inside VMware Cloud Foundation. Your SDDC manager becomes the centralized management plane responsible for infrastructure inventory, lifecycle management, certificate management, password management, compliance validation, health monitoring, workload domain provision end-to-end cloud orchestration. Notice what I did say. I didn't say SDDC Manager replace vSATA server. It does not replace vSATA server. It does not replace NSX. It does not replace vSAN. It orchestrates vSATA server. And that is an important architectural distinction. Brain, always remember, brain do not replace organs. Your brain coordinates organs among these organs. That's exactly what SDDC Manager does it. SDDC Manager, as you could see that, SDDC Manager inside VCF. And here you could see something really fascinating, where if you look at the architecture from bottom to top, if you look at this architecture from bottom to top, we have something called physical infrastructure, where we have our on top of that physical infrastructure, we have our ESXi, vCenter server, NSX, vSAN. And then what do we have is a coordinator, SDDC manager. Then we have our automation, policies, and then on top of that, we have our applications and workloads. What do we see? So that is the entire architecture. What you see that the SDDC manager inside PC. If you really observe this orange data path, if you really observe, they are intelligent paths. They are intelligence paths. Every layer depend on coordinated decision making. Every layer, whether it's being vCenter, whether it's being NSX, whether it's being vSAN, whether it's being ESXi, every layer depend on coordinated decision making. And that is why SDDC manager sits at the center. Imagine you're constructing a smart city. Your roads, electricity, water, traffic, security, healthcare, each system has its own responsibility, but someone must coordinate the city. Otherwise, each of these departments will become a disconnected department. SDDC manager performs that same role inside VMware Cloud Foundation. SDDC manager integrates every infrastructure layer. It provisions, validate, it provisions, it validates, it automates, it monitors, it updates, it secures, governs, and orchestrates. It does not own the infrastructure. Always remember, SDDC manager does not own the infrastructure. It governs the infrastructure, right? That's what your SDDC manager does it. So today we have completed today's journey. Let's take a step back and appreciate how far we have come. Congratulations, everyone, because today you did not simply learn another VMware product. You changed the way you think about cloud infrastructure, right? We have discussed about infrastructure complexity, thousands of components, hundreds of operational challenges. But then we introduced SDDC Manager. We explored SDDC Manager. We understood why SDDC Manager is required and what is the real function of SDDC Manager. So now, in the next episode, what we are going to talk about, we are going to talk about how do we deploy VMware Cloud Foundation, right? In the next episode, we will discuss step-by-step deployment of VMware Cloud Foundation. We will understand the bring up environment, how the step we need to follow for the VCF deployment. So in the next episode, guys, we will walk you through with the complete deployment journey. If today episode taught us anything, if it's this, modern cloud infrastructure is not defined by a virtual machine. Today, your modern cloud infrastructure defined by the intelligence, because the future of infrastructure is never about managing technology. Future of infrastructure is about orchestrating outcomes. If you found value in today's episode, guys, don't just watch it. Share it with your friends, colleagues, and someone who really passionate to learn VCF and want to become VCF engineer, architect, and VCF specialist. Join our GoVMlab YouTube channel for exclusive content in vSphere, NSX, and many other VMware solutions, guys. Because at GoVMlab, we don't just teach tools, we help learners to understand architecture. Thank you for joining me once again. I'm Neeraj Mantri. I'll see you in the next episode of Mastering VCF series, where we will walk you through a step-by-step procedure of deploying VMware Cloud Foundation. Thank you, and see you guys in the next episode.